So I hope you got some questions for our speakers. So we'll do a Q&A, and I request both of our speakers to come to the stage and take a seat. We'll do a 15 minutes Q&A, if everybody's okay with that. And Mr. R. Suresh, if you would like to also moderate it for everybody.
Good evening, everyone, once again. Thank you for patient listening and absorption that you have done of the two very, very insightful speech. I made a lot of notes, but I thought it's better for the cross-section of the audience today to ask questions to Anil ji and Dilip. Without taking much time, I must tell you that both of them asked me, what is the background of the audience that we are going to talk to before coming in here? I told them, look, this is the most eclectic mix of people drawn from startups, SMEs, big companies, multi-billion-dollar companies, professionals, bankers, lawyers, doctors, private equity specialists, and people from the media, service industry. Then I said best is to talk Indian economy as a whole and manufacturing. As we said, the trend is shifting towards manufacturing. So Dilip talked about manufacturing. So I would just want to set the ball rolling and complete the whole thing by 15, 20 minutes. So I have one simple question to Mr. Anil Swarup to start with. There's so much talk about Government of India doing a great job supporting the economic growth, particularly the current dispensation. The PLI policy really is remarkable. Everybody I speak to in the industry, they say PLI is very helpful. You get 5% of the revenue, incremental revenue straight on as a government support. Do you think the government policies today is back center stage pushing the industry, or it is the industry which is really driving growth in electronics and manufacturing, chemicals, and so on?
We must understand the limitations of the government very clearly. I think all the growth that has come around in the country since the 90s, because real growth happened after that, may have been on account of some of the policy decisions taken by the government. And government will continue, more governments will come and go. But the real driver is the industry, actually. So if anything has happened, the credit actually goes to the industry. And as a part of the government, I used to say, the primary role of the government is to play the role of a facilitator. Make the life of the industry simple and easy. That's the bottom line, because they will drive on their own. Government doesn't have to push anything. I think we are greater trouble creators than anything else. So the job is to see how I can help industry. In fact, when I was Coal Secretary Government of India, and when we did these coal block auctions, thereafter, when I was called for consultations and all, I used to tell very clearly that government should ensure that the industry is not troubled in whichever way. And then the industry will flourish. We don't have to push them. I mean, I was not in favor of subsidy here and subsidy there and this and that. Make life easy for the industry. That is one. Second, I mean, I may be sounding very different here. I am not a great believer in road shows. Because I felt that instead of Government of India going and tell the world over that please come here and invest, it would be better if the industry goes and tells them that we are comfortable there and people will come and invest. So why should the government go and say, and I used to jokingly say, Please tell me, this lion of Make in India has roared so much, how much distance has it traveled? We have to look at these fundamentals of it. Have I made life easy for the industry? And I don't have to answer this question. No one in the government should answer this question. The only person to answer that question is the industry itself. So how can I used to repeatedly ask this question of myself, am I making life easy for the industry? And whatever little that I could achieve was making that life easy, whether in this state of UP for a short time or in Government of India. I said, I am there to help you. And sometimes people used to ask me, yaar, tum monitor nahi karte ho. Maine kaha, am I wiser than the others to monitor others? Who am I to monitor? I ask people, can I help you? If that becomes the attitude of the government, I have absolutely no doubt about the potential of industry in this country. The question should be asked is not pushing, but can I help you? Can I be of assistance? That itself will help the industry to go. So I'm not commenting on what the government is doing now or not. I think there are many positives of the government. But fundamentally, I'm concerned about still the troubles that the industry has. And the only concern that government is to ask the man where the shoe pinches. I shouldn't be doing anything on my own. Ask the industry where the shoe is pinching and do everything to ensure that pinching goes. So that's what I believe. I think government is doing a lot, but this is one area I feel that we still need streamlining of processes. We still need situations where industry can freely and frankly express itself without any fear. One may agree or disagree, that's a different matter. But if I don't allow them to speak up, then I will never get, I, as a civil servant, even as Secretary Government of India, my philosophy is very simple. I may totally disagree with you, but why should I deprive myself of the wisdom that you may have? Because ultimately I am going to decide. I will say no to you because I am the decision maker, but by not allowing you to tell me what you want to tell me, I am depriving myself of that wisdom. So whereas some phenomenal work is happening on various fronts, this is one area where I would like to believe, and industry can play a very important role in that, by pushing issues which do not actually hurt anybody, but telling. And I tell you, I have worked within the government. This government wants simplification. It's not that they don't want simplification, but simplification doesn't give you publicity, So you have to push that these are the processes. If this process is changed this way, or this is digitized, probably we'll have lesser problems. And look at what has happened in the income tax. It has improved remarkably. So there are various areas where improvement have come about. I think we'll have to follow that, pursue that, and ensure that the procedures are simplified even further.
Excellent. I have one question to Dilip and then set the questions to the audience. Request you to shoot questions to them. Dilip, I know you went into great depth on transformation in manufacturing. Digital factories, speed factories, risk management, supply chain optimization, mapping supply chain, fantastic. But my question is not on manufacturing. With the audience diverse interests in mind, you are not a millennial by any stretch of imagination. Digital seems to be a private fiefdom of millennials. They are more flexible gadgets and gizmos that they work with. How have you as an individual adapted to transforming the viscose staple fiber business or the chemical businesses that you have managed? So as a senior leader, do you find it difficult to even go near these millennials and talk digital stuff? Or you say, look, firstly, it is common sense. I know what is required. I know what is required to compete China. So are you now a reborn millennial yourself?
Very good question. And I think, like Mr. Swarup said, the government is an enabler. Digital also is an enabler for the business. And I always look upon it, how well it's like anybody can buy a Ferrari, but everybody can't be a Schumacher. So digital is something which everybody has it. And the leader's role is to understand how you can create value out of it. And it has been my principle, and I think why digital? I am of a vintage of late 70s. last 40, 45 years, the kind of changes we have seen. When I was studying, you won't even know there was a slide rule. I don't know if anybody has seen it. From a slide rule to an AI is a huge transformation. I think what is required for people, leaders to understand is what drives value by a particular technology. And that does not require you need to know the technology. There are enough guys in the world who can give you technology. We don't ask right questions. So what I have learned and what example I was giving, and I have found millennials will help you in implementing it, but they will not be able to ask the questions with the expertise and knowledge of which you get it. And I think that's where the whole difference makes. And
Excellent. People from the audience, there's one there. Kevin? Anyone can pass the mic. Please feel free.
This question is to Mr. Anil Swarup. I think if the leader has ever moved from being an undeniable stereotype to an undeniable brand, you've done that today for your community of civil servants. I think all of us have a very different opinion of civil servants only after listening to you. Would you agree, guys?
Yeah, absolutely.
But because we heard you, we feel that. I want to ask you a question. How much of it is because, how many Anil Swarups are there? Because we heard you, we started thinking that way. Is it that they don't have a voice? There are more honest people out there than not so honest, is my first question to you. And then I'll take the liberty to cheat Suresh. I'll also get Mr. Dilip Gaur and I'll ask him that digitization, you talked of idiosyncratic digitization. If digitization was not there, the technology was not there, then is it possible that we would have never become what we are now talking of, Indo-synchronization with digitization? That today we are saying, we are talking that we have made leaps and bounds, gone ahead of many countries. It's because the technology is there. So had the technology not been there, what would have happened? We would have still been in the dark ages, is my question to you.
You want to think?
Okay. Yeah. See, if one thing I can tell you with my 38 experience in the service, there are many, many Anil Swarups in the service. But that didn't really matter to me. It didn't really matter to me. Irrespective whether they were there or not there, I had to take a call about myself. And I had always believed that I can't do much to others. I can do a lot to myself. And if I were to do to others, I would have been in serious trouble because politicians, they are civil servants of all shapes, sizes, good, bad, and ugly. But if you are what you are, and that's what I write in my book, the last couplet of ethical dilemmas of civil servant is what inspired me was, खुदी कुकर बुलंद इतना कि हर तकदीर से पहले खुदा बंदे से खुद पूछे बता तेरी रजा क्या है. So, whereas there are many of them, and I keep asking now post-retirement, that why aren't those people visible? By nature, civil servants दिखाई कम दिया करते हैं बुनियाद के पत्थर जमीन में दब गए जो इमारत उन्हीं पे कायम है. They are on the background. They don't do work. But what we need to do now in the change environment is talk about those good people. Let them become visible. Let them demonstrate to others that good people and ethical people exist and perform so as to inspire the youngsters. And I go around the country talking to youngsters, telling them, you can do well. That needs to be demonstrated. Unfortunately, we only talk about, you look at newspapers, they only talk about corrupt civil servants. They talked about a civil servant being caught. Why can't we talk about Iqbal Singh Chahal? Now he's being spoken about. He's doing a wonderful job here in municipal corporation. There are many, many such officers. My suggestion to all of you is, आप मुक्तकंठ से तारीफ कीजिए उन अधिकारियों की जो अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं. You will find more of them visible. Thank you.
if I got a question right, let me respond. Otherwise, I'll again try. See, I believe digitization is not what is causing the progress. It's the outcome of the progress. If you look at the world in last 200 years, first steam engine was made. Then the society grows. The society grows, then they realize that, look, now we have come to limits of our growth. What do I do next? Then the assembly line came. The whole second revolution came. Assembly line came, then people thought my quality of life has to improve further. And the computers came, microelectronics came. You saw the Japan's ascendancy happened. Outcome of then the internet came. So I think these are progressions. It doesn't mean that digitization is causing the progress. It is the progress which is causing digitization. The innovations are happening because what we want as human beings. Millennials want to get connected. Young people, societies want to get integrated. The need is there. The need is there, product will be found. That's how the market works. There is a latent need. The difference is there is a latent need and there is a visible need. The need to connect was a latent need which perhaps I think the Facebook fellows found out, and that's how it worked. The need to get product delivered at home was there always. The housewife wanted, but people were Hogani. Amazon found it. When the Walkman came, but for that, while he was playing tennis, he wanted to hear music. Just we happened to be the part of the Sony company, it happened. So I always say, the more and more as a business, we have to look at the unarticulated needs, the nascent needs, and find solutions, and that will happen more and more.
Can I just take the follow-up question, Suresh? Just one small one.
Many hands raising.
Yeah, just one quick one. So JFK was very famous of saying that America is not rich. I mean, America does not have highways, and therefore it is rich. It is rich because it has the highways. And today we didn't have highways. Highways are being built, but we could overcome that and have digital pathways. So I'm just saying the reach and the transparency could happen. Had that not happened, then what would it be? I'm talking in particular about Jandan Aadhaar mobile connection and then whatever else, the manifestations of that.
That's the viewpoint. I couldn't. What's the question?
What he's saying is that because the infrastructure is created now,
Yeah.
through technology, which is the digital side, the progress is imminent.
Yeah.
You were saying the progress causes digitization.
No.
Yeah, because you see,
They're both
how
interlinked.
did the
It's
digital
circular.
start? The
They're
seed of digital
interdependent.
came in microelectronics.
They are interdependent.
It's interdependent. It's a continuous virtuous loop.
Yeah,
So there is
it's a
a
virtuous
virtuous loop which keeps on building, and there is a doom loop which keeps on going down. So I think the microelectronics and internet. So next view was digital. Then now the people are back to physical now. You are again the world is now going back. You have realized that you can't live only in the virtual world. You need to connect physically also. Physical will come. Something else will come. Metaverse will come. The metaverse will be passé. Then metaverse guys will say, what was they doing 10 years back? Yeah. So I think that's what.
There's a question there.
Yeah, Rakesh, sorry. Samina will come to you.
Yeah, I have a question to both eminent gentlemen, one from the industry and one from the bureaucracy. See, we hear a lot about China plus one, and you both spoke about China plus one.
Yeah.
But really speaking, there are many skeptics. I mean, we know that there is an opportunity, but do you really feel that with a lot of regulations, if you look at China, they can do things overnight. And here we have, being a democracy and a diverse country, things don't move that fast. And China's success has been the speed with which they have implemented. So my question to both of you, one from the industry, one from the bureaucracy, do you really feel that we will take that opportunity? And your predictions, sir, in 10 years from now, where do you see in the context of China plus one?
Right. Yeah. First of all, it is wrong to compare China with India. We keep looking at China. It's a different context altogether. We are a proud democracy and we'll continue to be proud. I'm very clear in my mind. Okay. Second, I'm a die-hard optimist. And I believe that this country is on the right path and we will fulfill our dreams. Maybe not in 10 years, maybe 15 years, maybe longer. The problem that we face here is that we don't look at such projects or events that have happened fast and learn from them. So many things have happened pretty fast in India. And we must try and understand how did that happen and learn and replicate it. So I'm taking my own example. No one ever gave coal block auctions a chance. Everyone thought that coal is a dead game. No? In 2014-15, when I took over as coal secretary, 26 power plants were in crisis. I was summoned to Bombay by the then Chief Minister, who is now the Deputy Chief Minister, and we had a long chat. By 2016, we were thinking in terms of exporting coal to Bangladesh. It happened. I keep telling everyone, try and understand how did that happen. Swachh Bharat happened. How did that happen? You know, I keep telling everyone, let us not merely, we should analyze where things have gone wrong. We must try and understand how did that happen so fast as it did. It didn't happen so fast in China in this context, but happened very fast in India, and learn from them. So since it has happened, you don't have to go to England, Finland, Holland, Scotland, all over the world. You have to look at the models that are working in India. As Education Secretary, I traveled to 24 states in the first 3 months as Secretary Education. And we picked up 24 out of 110 models that I got to India. You can't imagine the speed with which the replication has happened. Akshay Patra, you ought to know about it. When I walked into a school in Lucknow, I didn't know what Akshay Patra was. I had midday meal and I couldn't believe the quality of meal. When I went to the headquarters, I got to know that it is Akshay Patra who is doing it. Then I flew to Bangalore, spoke to the chairperson there, and asked him, how many students are you feeding? He said, 1 million. What would it take to do it 2 million? He said, I want this from the government. Believe me, I am now as a trustee on Akshay Patra. Last month, they informed me they have reached 2 million. So it can happen in India. So I would request all of you is, amongst yourself also, you can have these great things where you can understand how this guy is doing well in these very set of circumstances. Yes, government should do a lot. You can always blame the government for so many things. But there are guys sitting in this room who are performing brilliantly in these set of circumstances. Let us learn from them. That is what we need to do. Not look at China, because China happens that I would hate to be a Chinese, I would rather be an Indian, no? So let us do it the India way, and we know we can do it and we shall do it.
Dilip, you.
I'll build on the perspective. See, I spoke about geopolitics. China in late 70s was making shoddy goods. There was no scale. There was nothing. So what happens? But US made sure that they gave an access to the big market. And I always say, market drives innovation. When the demand came, they rose to the occasion. Today, you must have read the Economic Times. China makes 240 million pieces of iPhone. We do a 2 million. That factory in China is having a huge problem. Now, iPhone guys are wanting to make 50% of their iPhones in India. We say it's not possible. But they'll make it happen because they want it. What do they do? Tomorrow, you put a sanction against China, the whole iPhone business collapses. So, when I tell you the alchemist moment, it is not a single player. There is a system has to work. System will force you to perform. Because I didn't say who has the strategic depth after China in this. Just imagine that China, people don't want to buy from China. Vietnam doesn't have the size and scale of us. They don't have the intellectual bandwidth which we have. Korea doesn't have it. None of the South countries have it. The only country which has got the domestic market, the scale, size, is India. Talent. So I don't think we will change. And as Mr. Swarup said, there are islands of excellence. Today you see, with all these things going around it. I shouldn't say, because I work for the group. We are the largest aluminium producer in the world. There is a refinery in Jamnagar which is the biggest in the world, with the same kind of a thing. You have an IT industry which is the most efficient in the world. So, I once met, I think we think too much about the government. Sometimes when you do things right, the government won't come and stop you from doing right things. I was in a program in MIT and I met, there was a interaction happening. There was a Nobel laureate, Professor Don Bush, and same debate happened. They said, it's a lot of Indians were there, you talk about China, US talks about China, what's your view about India? He said, I have never been to India. I don't know about India. But one thing I'll tell you, you guys too much talk to your government. It takes two to tango. You don't talk, the government will come after you. He said, that's what we do in US. For us, for every small thing, we run to the government because we believe I'll get some benefit for me or not for him. I think we have to look collective, we have to look at the industry. You have to be viable, you have to be sustainable, and you have to have the best-in-class technology. You do that, you will succeed. Wage arbitrage is not going to take us anywhere. Germany exports highest in the world with the wage cost 10 times our wage cost. Why? So I think we have to get out of the rationalization mindset. I think at the end of the day, if you do right things, you will get the right outcomes.
Excellent. Yep.
So I'm sure we are all optimistic about the economic growth story of India. And, but I want to hear Mr. Swarup said something about today being the Babri Masjid demolition day, and he had some interesting story about it. And I would like to know about the social justice aspect. Today is also Ambedkarji's Mahan Nirpavan Divas, so I'd like to hear something about that.
You know, the entire story is there in my book, which probably will be offered to you all today. But let me briefly tell you what happened on the 6th of December, 1991. Oh, sorry, 1992. I was Director Information and Public Relations to Mr. Kalyan Singh and Special Secretary to him. So on 6th of December morning, it was a Sunday, I went to his residence. I used to go to his residence every morning because my job was to show him paper clippings of what the news items were. I reached there, and for a change, he looked very tense. I was a bit surprised because he normally is a very relaxed man. So all congregation had happened in Faidabad, now Ayodhya. So very soon, say at around 12 o'clock, 12:30, message came that the structure had come down. He was livid, contrary to the general impression. He was livid because he didn't want that. He had his own way of finding solution to the problem. In fact, the ultimate Supreme Court decision was the suggestion made by Mr. Kalyan Singh then. And the conversations that he had with Mr. Advani, who was on the spot, and Mr. Bharat Singh Shekhawat, the Chief Minister of Rajasthan, were indeed revealing. He was livid at them as well. He said, I told you all not to get these people around this structure. I had my own way of finding solution to this problem. I would have found it. Now, you did not agree with me, and look at what has happened. That is what he said. And then he made a very interesting remark. He tells me, Anil, ek kagaz le aao. So I got a piece of paper for him. And he wrote in his own hand कि आज जो कुछ भी हुआ है उसका संपूर्ण उत्तरदायित्व, complete responsibility मैं लेता हूँ. किसी भी अधिकारी या अन्य व्यक्ति की इसकी जिम्मेदारी नहीं है. Only he could have done that. Only a person like Kalyan Singh could do that. So contrary to the general impression, Kalyan Singh was against demolition in the way it happened. He didn't want it that way. I was privy to some of the conversations that he had with some of the minorities group. He was trying to convince them that आप तो इसमें नमाज पढ़ते नहीं हो, 12 साल से आपने नमाज नहीं पढ़ी, तो मस्जिद तो है ही नहीं है. And many of them were getting convinced. He said, मैं आपकी भव्य मस्जिद बनवाऊंगा दूसरी जगह. आप इसको छोड़ दो. राम जी की जन्मभूमि है. And let me tell you, and this I am talking about 30 years ago, he was convincing people into believing that let a temple come here and I'll get you another masjid. That's ultimately that happened after so many years. So that is what I wanted to share with you. It's there in my book also.
Any other questions?
Ji. Ji. I have no idea. I have no idea. I can tell you. No, I can't guess, but I'll tell you about my personal experience. I must, since you say that. When I joined as Director General Labour Welfare in the Ministry of Labour, within a month I discovered nothing happens in the ministry. Like many other ministries, nothing happened. And here I had an explanation for it. The explanation was that we were all in labour, and hence by definition we couldn't deliver. Because if you delivered, you will be out of labor. So we were perpetually in pain. And the funniest thing was that we used to have tripartite discussion with labor leaders, employers, unions, and us for 2 days, and everyone wanted more. And the worst bit was, in the month of April, it was so hot in Delhi that 35 of us used to go to Geneva to find solution to the labor problems of India. And we never found those solutions. You know why? Because if you found solution next year, you won't go to Geneva. So when I went there for the first time, I found it a total farce. And some of my colleagues cursed me because when I returned, I wrote a very nasty note. I said, there's no reason for us, so many going there in attending Geneva conference, where nothing happens actually. Many international conferences, nothing happens. So this is my experience with that. I don't know how many of them go. I mean, wouldn't you like to go abroad if you get an opportunity to go to a lovely country like Switzerland? Everyone would. So let them go. What's your problem?
Falguni, yeah.
Good evening, Mr. Swarup, and it's been very heartening to hear you because the dwindling faith is now getting restored. But I would like to ask that since there must be more of Mr. Swarups, and we really want the faith to come back, I mean, is there consultancies that you provide to the dwindling structures which are happening? One, and isn't there a way that you could talk more to people in general to let us know about all those good bureaucrats which are sitting there? Because somewhere we do know that the general machinery is run by the bureaucrats and not the politicians, but we really want to hear more. I mean, there has to be a way that you can communicate with the public at large, like us.
Okay,
we
so
would like
what
to
do I?
hear more.
Okay, so what do I do? Last month I was in Delhi for only 8 days. I was traveling 22 days and talking to various sections of society. I have addressed children of age of 10 years, and then I addressed where in the audience everyone was above 80. And I was trying to tell them that yes, there is a lot of wrong with the civil service. There are many bad bureaucrats, but there are good ones as well. Now, it's a choice with us whether we want to spend our time discussing the nasty ones, the uglier ones, or the good ones. And if you read my book, Ethical Dilemmas of a Civil Servant and No More a Civil Servant, in both these books, I have narrated a number of instances how good work is happening, both by the government officers as well as non-governmental organizations. It's not a monopoly of government or non-government. My contention is, both in the government and outside, some brilliant work is happening. So how about talking of that brilliant work? How about learning? How about feeling convinced that good work can happen because it is happening? That's what I'm doing with limited capacity that I have. If I'm not traveling, I'm doing webinars. I'm doing conferences. I'm talking to people around. Whatever little. I have always believed, जो कुछ आप थोड़ा बहुत कर सकते हैं करिए. But I have also believed, मैं अकेला ही चला था जाने पे मंजिल मगर लोग साथ आते गए कारवां बनता गया.
Wow.
If you look at Nexus of Good, there are thousands of followers now. So we are trying to bring about a change. I don't know. I believe in Kanmande Vadikaraste, so I don't know what will be the end result. But one is putting one's best foot forward, and that is perhaps one of the reasons where I didn't take any government assignment. I mean, there were many forthcoming. I said no. I want my freedom to express my thoughts, to go around the country, talk to people. And as I said, I travel 20 days a month. I can't do more because last year I met with a health problem, and thereafter, I'm limited a bit, but I still travel about 20 days a month, talking to people around.
I must say, I made 6 calls to him to get the date on a weekend, and it was unsuccessful. He was traveling. And I got this only day for an 8-week stretch, and I grabbed that. So despite a weekday, he was here.
No, but what a pleasure it has to be to interact with all of you. It's been lovely.
Questions are winding down. I know, Vinita, you have a question. Yeah. This probably will be the last question because we'll overshoot the time.
Yeah, my question is addressed to Mr. Swarup. I would like to know why teachers in this country are underpaid. Because you see, they are the ones who are making engineers, doctors of tomorrow. But I feel like, of course, I'm also in the education field. So I'm in the coaching industry. There, of course, teachers are well paid. But if you see schools and all, and if I ask children, like, what do you want to become in life? Nobody says, I want to become a teacher or a professor. Whereas during my visit to Canada, I asked the children, and they were very happy to say that I want to become a teacher. So why is it, why are they so underpaid here that nobody thinks of it as a career option?
You are both correct and incorrect. Okay. First of all, the incorrect part. The incorrect part is that they are not underpaid. You go to village, the teacher is the best paid. In fact, in states like UP and Bihar, these teachers employ another teacher to work on their behalf. And they pay to them. And I've seen it from very close quarters. But you're right. in the sense, to me, I felt it that way, that teachers are pivot to school education. And I don't have time, otherwise I would have explained to you what is wrong there. It's not money. There is something else wrong there. Because the biggest mafia of school education is B.Ed and D.El.Ed colleges. And there is a full chapter in my book about this mafia. So we have to take care of this mafia. In my entire career of 38 years, I always made myself redundant in a department or an organization that I was. Systems took over. It was only as education secretary that I felt probably I should have had more time, because the problems are much tougher. I don't have time, otherwise I would go on to explain to you what the problems relating to teachers are and how they can actually be handled. I'm not merely pointing out that there is a problem, but they can be actually sorted out. You are right, teachers are pivot to school education. Secondly, it's not money that people want to become teachers, or not money. You know, why do you want people become IS officers or IPS officers? Because of the recognition that they get. Rightly or wrongly, I'm not saying. They do get. We as a society don't recognize a teacher. So again, I don't want to get into that debate, but you're right. Teachers are the pivot of school education, but perhaps you're wrong that they are underpaid. They are underpaid in private schools, but not in government schools.
Thank you.
So we'll wind down the question. I have one question to Dilip, because I know him for I don't know how many years. He hasn't changed at all. He looks the same 30 years back, and he looks the same now. And you know, he retired. He called me once and said, Suresh, I'm planning a easy afterlife, after corporate life. And he went to shake hands with his chairman, Mr. Birla, because he was retired. Mr. Birla called him the next day and said, you retired from one job. He gave him 8 jobs next day. Today, all the educational universities, all vice chancellors of the Birla Group report to him. He's setting up one confidential business. He's got, I don't know how many businesses report to you. All of them report to him. So my question on all your behalf that leads us to the Ashish's module, how do you stay fit? How do you stay live, fit? He's aware of Germany, he's aware of China, he's aware of, I mean, with him, you know, from boots and footwear industry all the way to rocket and satellite industry, he's an encyclopedia. He puts himself in good, solid network, and he's also well aware of what's happening around the world. So I want to ask him, what's the secret?
Just love your work and stay happy.
That's right. That's right.
If you love what you do, is what happens.
Absolutely.
No?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So on that note, we will thank both these gentlemen once again.
Thank you so much. Pleasure.
And request you to come in.